Hello students, welcome to my class. So in the previous video, we had studied about ion in the biological system, metal ions majorly in the biological system and how they are transported, different methods of transportation. And in this video, we will be continuing with the same topic, that is ion transport across the membrane. So to begin with, we will study about models of active transport of cation across the biological membrane through the ionophore. Now we already studied what an ionophore is. What does an ionophore do? It simply transports the ions which cannot move by itself. It transports those ions across the membrane. That is, it takes it from one side to the other side, be it channel type of ionophore or a carrier type of ionophore. Now there are two different types, that is monocarboxylate ionophore and a dicarboxylate ionophore. First let us understand the difference. In case this picture is about a monocarboxylate ionophore, in case if it is a monocarboxylate ionophore, it will have only one COOH group. So now you can see this is the ionophore here which has only one COOH group or the carboxylate group. If it is a dicarboxylate ionophore, it will have two such groups. That is, one more will be attached over here. That is, two carboxylate groups will be attached to it. So, a monocarboxylate ionophore, it can transport monovalent ions, that is ions with only one charge, plus one charge, okay, like K plus and Na plus. Whereas if it is a dicarboxylate ionophore, it can transport monovalent ions like K plus and Na plus, as well as it can transport divalent ions like Ca2 plus or any ion with plus 2 charge. So it can do both the things. It can transport monovalent as well as divalent ions, whereas in case of a monocarboxylate ionophore, it can transport only monovalent ion. Now, second point is cation transport is coupled with proton transport in the opposite direction. Let us understand this point by understanding this model. Okay. Now, what is this? This is a monocarboxylate ionophore, and they are telling us that as we transport the cation from one side to the another side, the H plus or the proton is transported from another side to this side. So if this is side 1 and side 2, if K plus is taken from side 1 to side 2, H plus ion is taken from side 2 to side 1. How does this happen? Let us understand that with this model. Okay, so before that, you should know that at high pH, the carboxylic acid group remains deprotonated. That is, this group is there. No, in case of a monocarboxylate, there is one COOH group, correct? If there is high pH, this COOH group will remain deprotonated. That is, H plus ion will not be attached to it. It will remain as COO minus. Whereas at low pH, it remains protonated. That is, at low pH, it will remain as COOH. And at high pH, it will remain as COO minus. So now here, understand students, it is a monocarboxylate ionophore. Its work is to take this K plus from side 1 to side 2. It has come here to side 1 where the pH is high. So at high pH, it remains deprotonated. That is, it will lose its H plus ion to this side and take up the K plus ion from here and take it to the side 2. Okay, at side 2, the pH is low. So what happens at low pH? It remains protonated, correct? So at low pH, it takes up the H plus ion, so becomes protonated, leaves the K plus here inside too and goes back. Correct. Did you understand the mechanism? So whenever it is at a high pH, it is in a deprotonated form. So it can take up K plus in its center and take it to the other side. Whereas when it is in the low pH, it is in the protonated form, that is, it is in the form of COH. So it cannot take K plus, so it will drop off the K plus and go. Correct. So that was in case of a monocarboxylate ionophore. Now let us understand dicarboxylate ionophore. As I said, it can transport both monovalent ion as well as divalent cations. But how does it do it? For that also, the mechanism is same. That is, if it is a dicarboxylate ionophore, you know that it has two carboxylate group number 1 and group number 2. Okay, I will call it as group number 1 and 2. Okay, so what happens to a dicarboxylate ionophore at low pH? We know that at low pH it is supposed to be protonated, and at high pH it is supposed to remain deprotonated. But in case of a carboxylate ionophore, at low pH, only one carboxylic acid group remains protonated. Group number 1 might remain protonated. What happens to group number 2? It will remain deprotonated. So, since only one group is in the form of deprotonated form, it will transport a monovalent ion like K plus. Whereas at high pH you know supports deprotonation. High pH, both these carboxylate acid group they remain deprotonated. So they will transport a divalent cation. Are you understanding the difference? Low pH, only one remains protonated, or you can also tell it as only one remains deprotonated. So it will transport only a monovalent ion. At high pH, both of them remain deprotonated, hence they will transport a divalent cation. So you can actually adjust the pH and control which ion is being transported. That is, if you want K plus to be transported, you will keep the pH low. If you want Ca2 plus to be transported, you will keep the pH high. That is about the model of active transport. Next, we are studying about ion pump, wherein where did we come across ion pump, students? We were studying something called as active transport, where you studied that ions are moving from lower to higher concentration, and when they are moving like that they require energy or something to pump them to that higher energy, correct? So we studied under direct active transport, it is being carried out by ion pumps. So we are studying about one of the ion pump, that is the sodium potassium pump, which is very important. So how does this sodium potassium pump work? Before studying about its working, we are studying what actually makes the sodium potassium pump work. That is an enzyme that is known as a sodium potassium ATPase. This is a structure of that enzyme which makes the sodium potassium pump work. Okay, so let us study the structure of this enzyme. This enzyme has two big units. These two big units are called as a alpha subunits, and these two smaller units that are attached to the alpha subunits are called as a beta subunits. These two bigger units they are called as a alpha subunits. These two smaller units they are called as a beta subunit. This is the inside of the cell or the cytosol, and this is the outside of the cell. And these sites on the alpha subunit, these black sites are called as a ATP binding site. This is called as a steroid binding site. Okay, aspartate or steroid binding site, these two smaller sites. These two sites are on the same, that is alpha subunit only. On the top, that is facing towards the inside of the cell, there is ATP binding site, and on the bottom facing towards the outside of the cell, there is steroid binding site. And you know that since it is active transport, it definitely needs energy because it is working against the potential gradient. So this energy is obtained from the hydrolysis of the ATP for the pump to work. Now let us study what actually happens in the sodium potassium pump. You know that it maintains active transport, you already know that. And here in this pump, three sodium ions are transported from inside of the cell to outside, and two potassium ions are transported from outside to inside. Now students, it is very important for animal cells to maintain high concentration of potassium ions inside the cell. This is an important question. Why is it important for them to maintain high concentration of potassium ion inside the cell? The reason is high concentration of potassium inside the cell is required for various glucose metabolism, protein synthesis, and activation of some enzyme. Some enzymes, if they have to work, they have to be activated, correct? So for those enzymes to be activated, there should be high concentration of K plus inside the cell. One of the example is pyruvate kinase. Okay, So since high concentration of K plus is maintained inside the cell, a high concentration of Na plus is maintained outside the cell. Now you can see that already there is high concentration of K plus inside the cell. Two potassium ions are once again going from outside to inside only. Because why is it like that? Because this is active transport. It is coming from low to higher concentration. Potassium will be low outside, but it will be going from outside to inside where the concentration is high. Reason is this is an active transport. And what is the concentration ratio of Na plus outside to Na plus inside is 15, and K plus inside to K plus outside is 25. The mechanism of the sodium potassium pump. This chart is very important. You should know to draw this chart. So what happens? Three sodium ions bind to the alpha subunit. These two are the alpha subunit, which facilitates the binding of ATP to the same unit. That is, you know that here in the top of the alpha subunit, there is ATP binding site. As soon as three sodium ions bind to the alpha subunit, ATP is bound to the same part. That is, ATP is bound to the same unit. Next, Mg2 plus ion, it plays a very important role in ATP coming and binding to the ATP binding sites of the alpha subunit. Next step, ATP is hydrolyzed to give ADP, and energy phosphorylation takes place through the aspartate binding site. Phosphorylation as in the phosphate group going and attaching to some organic molecule. So now this bottom part is called as the aspartate binding site. Since energy phosphorylation takes place, this process, that is energy phosphorylation taking place, the conformation of the protein changes. That is, this protein was in the V shape, now it has become ulta of it. That is, its conformation or eversion takes place. That is, its conformation changing is nothing but the eversion. That is, it is becoming ulta now. Okay, this changes the conformation of the protein. It acts as a revolving door. Now you can see it was like this, like a door that is open to outside. Now that same door is like, getting revolved and getting open to the other side. Correct. So it acts as a revolving door wherein Na plus ions, it releases the Na plus ions outside the cell because phosphorylated pump has lower affinity for sodium. That is, this conformation has more affinity to sodium, whereas this conformation, which is different from this, has lesser affinity for sodium. So it releases this sodium ions outside the cell. Now, what is there outside the cell? There are K plus ions. So it binds to the potassium ions from outside the cell. Because of potassium ions binding there is dephosphorylation. That is, phosphate group initially which was bound to organic molecule is now leaving that organic molecule, which is nothing but dephosphorylation, which is the complete opposite of phosphorylation. So because of dephosphorylation, once again what is happening, there is change in conformation like this. There is a revolving of that door again to come back to its original conformation. This original conformation has lower affinity for potassium ion because this conformation has more affinity for K plus ion. This conformation has more affinity for K plus ion. This conformation has more affinity for Na plus ions. Correct. So in this conformation, what happens? The K plus ions are released because it has low affinity for K plus ions. So what is happening? Our pump is working. Once again, Na plus will bind. So in simple words, I have to tell, then I'll tell it as like three sodium ions coming binding to the alpha subunit. Because of three sodium ions binding, next ATP comes and binds to the alpha subunit. As soon as ATP binds, ATP is hydrolyzed to ADP, and along with that, energy phosphorylation takes place. Because of energy phosphorylation, this which acts as a revolving door, its conformation changes. In this conformation, it has lesser affinity for sodium ions, so sodium ions are thrown out, whereas this conformation has more affinity for potassium ions, so it takes up the potassium ions. Next, once again, Because of potassium ions adding, there is dephosphorylation, that is a complete opposite of these three steps. Dephosphorylation. So because of dephosphorylation, once again the conformation of the protein changes. This conformation of protein has lesser affinity for K plus, whereas it has more affinity for Na plus. So it throws out the 2K plus ion, takes up the 2 Na plus, once again continues in the same way. This is nothing but your sodium potassium pump, which is represented in this equation. That is, 3 sodium ions which were inside will go to the outside. 2 potassium ions which were out will come inside. ATP is hydrolyzed to ADP, and next water, there is phosphorylation. So H plus goes out and phosphate group comes and binds over there. So next we are studying about the selectivity of the sodium potassium pump. Now you already understood that the pump in certain conformation it is selective to certain ion. Like in one conformation it was preferring to have sodium ions, and in the another conformation it was preferring K plus ion, okay, to the other ion. Next thing is both Na plus and K plus, they both are hard cations and they are good in good complex forming centers. But in comparison to Na plus and K plus, Na plus is harder, and because of being harder, its complexing power is greater. Okay, you should know that Na plus is harder, plus it is smaller in size compared to K plus, and its complexing power is greater. Okay, and this is because of its smaller size. And next is Na plus is more strongly hydrated than K plus, meaning to say its hydration energy is much more than K plus. So bases that are stronger than water will bind to Na plus preferably than to K plus. Okay, if there's any base that is much stronger than water, it will bind to K plus than binding to it will bind to Na plus than binding to K plus. What is the reason? Because Na plus has high hydration energy, or it is strongly hydrated. Whereas if there is a base that is weaker than water, what happens? It will prefer to bind to K plus compared to Na plus. Same way in case of crown ethers and cryptons. Now you know that Na plus size is smaller. So for Na plus, if crown ethers, you know, they are like ring structures. If the ring size is small, they will prefer to take Na plus with them because it is also small in size. It can easily fit into the ring. Whereas if the ring size is big, it will prefer to take K plus ion. So this is about the selectivity. It depends because their size is different, their hydration energy is different, their complexing power is different. Depending upon that, some maybe some ions or ionopores will have preferences which one to take. That is about the selectivity of sodium potassium pump. So with this we have completed this topic, that is about metal ion transport, about ionopores and ion pumps. I hope you have understood this topic completely. So keep studying. Thank you for attending my class, students. Take care. Bye.